good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Rip. Shy, how we doing this morning, baby? Markets are
Morning,
back. Markets
morning.
are open. We're moving as well. Things are moving pretty good. We got an exciting week. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready. I'm seeing pre-market actions definitely favoring large tech. I'm seeing Amazon about to hit a new all-time high again at 230. Tesla's above 440. Uh, Honestly, it's a great setup. I think we're about to. I think Centrality starts officially starts next week. It's a great time to be invested right now. I think it's trend setting. Nothing is going to buck this trend, in my opinion, for the next couple of weeks. And it's great. I'm feeling more rested. 'Cause I took my foot off the gas pedal
Yeah,
last
you've been
week,
taking
and
a nice little break from things, huh?
yeah, enjoying the 3 weeks. I'm gonna continue it this week and same with next week. I think that's what a lot of investors should be or traders should be doing as well. Where take advantage of this quiet period. There's no reason you have to be in front of the screen. Like come back next year just fully fresh. Use it as your summer winter break like we had in high school and just go strong in 2025.
100%. Yep, that's what I'm doing. I agree. Just taking a look at the market. Things were moving a bit this morning. SPY Q's getting a nice bump up. Bitcoin sitting pretty back over 100,000 at 103.8 here. So things looking good over the weekend so far. Let's pop into the daily rip and get a little recap of what happened from last week and over the weekend. But yeah, on Monday, an overheated market simmered over. Also, obviously, we got that big China pop. And on the more stimulus hopes, while tech was kind of flopping to the downside, which provided some nice trades intraday, to be honest. I've been talking about how the all time highs can make it tough, and we're right back at all time highs, right? But things can be a little tougher on the intraday. So when we did get that pullback, it was nice to capitalize on that. So good stuff there. On Tuesday, we got Google's quantum computing news helped mitigate the stock market's losses. GME got some steam after that earnings, except I think it's kind of quiet now, but got a little juice after that earnings. So cool to see there. And then Microsoft shareholders pushing back again, making Bitcoin investments, and semiconductor stocks continue to experience weakness on Tuesday. Wednesday, Nasdaq Composite broke over 20,000 for the first time. Tesla and Elon topped the charts with the share price hitting new all-time highs. Of course, we love that. Tesla's just been killing it to the upside. The momentum has just been ridiculous. So, love to see that, but I'm always prepared to see that back test of those all-time highs that we had. It's going to come at some point. It's going to be a nice big back test. But until then, loving the momentum there. Thursday, higher inflation readings produced lower stock prices. The market's anxiety rose as producer prices showed their largest annual increase since February 2023. Broadcom blasting to new highs, of course, on earnings. That the strength there was awesome to see. I know Shy liked that. And then Friday, the $1 Trillion Club welcomed this new member, which was Broadcom. So very cool to see there. Shy, any big thoughts from kind of what happened last week on the recap?
I mean, Broadcom really saved the day for large tech, in my opinion,
Yeah,
because they are just
I agree.
intertwined with so much of large tech, even semiconductors like that. They're a $1 trillion company now, which is kind of crazy to see. A couple years ago, they were, I don't know, just I feel like they're $300 to $400 billion. Now they're a trillion. That's really is crazy. Their VMware acquisition is going really well, and they're showing that like there's layers among that stage one AI phase, and it's not just like all GPU based. Like there's a ton of read throughs across the board. So like Broadcom is still going strong in that stage one. And they also still have that software component for stage two, even though that was kind of lagging during their earnings. But anyway, Broadcom did save the day. So it's great to see because I think SMH or semiconductors just like took off after that. And that is, I'm part of the camp where we kind of need semis not to be lagging significantly for this market to have some longevity
Well,
to
that's what's
it.
been pushing things all year, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to just. I mean, other things can push the market, of course, but
Hmm.
you guys see that rotation, right? And it's kind of tough to find. And when you see Nvidia just drifting down, well, that's been pushing everything up this whole year. It's tough to want to get more juice out of the market into the end of the year, Even though
Totally.
I'm with it, right? In Santa Rally, I'm all for it. If it wants to come, I'm there. But um, we'll see what happens. But yeah, let's move on from this. We got some big data points happening this week. We do have some data like retail sales, S&P Global Composite happening earlier this week, but really what everybody's going to be waiting for is going to be that FOMC press conference. That's going to be big for the rate decision this week. And then we got GDP as well as PCE, jobless claims later in the week, existing home sales, bunch of big data coming out that should bring the market some nice volatility. So again, hopefully, VIX can get a little bit more of a bump up this week. We get some better intraday trading ranges and some better price action to capitalize on. That's what I'd be looking for, especially with all this data coming out. But we'll see. Shy, I know you're excited for this. It's going to be big. What are you kind of looking for your investment side of things? Because for me, day trading, it's one thing. We're just kind of trading the volatility. You know what I mean? Up or down doesn't really matter to me. I could care less. My long-term investments are doing great. I know I'm going to end the year doing all right no matter what happens here. So kind of what's your perspective going into this big week?
I mean, it's all going to be on the Fed press conference. What's Powell going to say? Like, I really don't think he's going to say anything like black swanny or overly dovish, overly um, like bearish, like hawkish. Like, I think it's going to be just like a monotoned, whatever he said in the previous calls, meetings type of thing. Core PC is a big one for the Fed. Like, that's a big metric, that macro data that the Fed monitors. So that's gonna be somewhat to watch. But you saw what happened. The PPI was really hot that came in last week, and the market shrugged it off. So like, I think doesn't matter what the macro data says for the rest of the year. It just can't be screaming like, "Whoa, that's like multiple, like that's a substantial miss, substantial uh, movement, thesis breaking on inflation, etc." Like, I don't think we're gonna get that, but it's just gonna be interesting points on maybe something more going forward. Like if PPI is hot again next month, or it's like starts being hot multiple months in a row, and CPI is gonna follow that. That's an issue, and that's why PPI last week was like, "Ooh, market shrugged it off," but it also took a note. It's like we have to kind of monitor this now going forward a little more than we previously did, and that's something that I think a lot of people should also factor into their investing style. If for next year, like watch out for that first monthly macro data print for CPI and PPI.
100%. Moving on, we got some earnings to watch out for this week. Obviously, earnings season is a little bit drier coming into the end of the year. We should see a pickup on that with the banks and stuff going into the new year. But we still got some companies reporting: Zedge, RCI, Midtech Systems, Ocean Power Technologies, Red Cat Holdings. That's all today. And this is the whole look for the week. But any that stand out to you that you're watching for this week? I know there's not much on the calendar coming into the end of the season here, Shy. But curious if maybe Nike's on your radar later in the week. FedEx, BlackBerry, something along those lines. Are you watching any of those?
Um, I mean, Micron's a major one in my opinion on Wednesday, mainly
Yeah, Micron.
because
Yeah,
they are mispriced. Like they're trading. I think I just made this post today. Actually, I can look at it. They're trading at 12 times their earnings, so that's really undervalued in my opinion. So it feels like there's something structurally wrong with a company if they're trading at 12 times earnings when they're growing, honestly, more than that. So I think Micron's a whole narrative that the memory chip component is a commodity, so Micron isn't really deserves any kind of premium. I disagree with that, but we'll see. I think a lot of negativity and FUDs are really priced into Micron's stock entering their print, so I would expect more upside than downside. However, the read through would be for the rest of the AI companies. Like, what is the read through on Micron? It's their HBM numbers. Like, that is going to be a pretty good indicator for a lot of the AI chip companies out there on, is the party going to continue? So I think that's a good read through. Another one's Accenture. Like Accenture's a massive, they're a blue chip software company. Like they're just blue chip in like the tech space. They're also one that's theoretically would thrive in some kind of AI. Like people are saying AI is going to disrupt their business model because the way it works right now, it's highly vulnerable in my opinion. But it's also going to probably enhance their profitability and margins at the same time. So like I'm curious on like how they're gonna be balancing the both camps right now, and we'll get that insight on Thursday. So those are the two big ones. Nike, I mean, I don't know. You saw Lululemon's numbers and like they were godly awful. So, but I think they went up. So you have to ask
Oh,
yourself,
they
like,
did.
what's being priced in?
This is the only reason I kept it in my long term into the end of the year. I was getting ready to sell it in case I was down on it, but we saved
Yeah,
the position there on that in Ulta. So
yeah, you have to ask what's priced in. Those
yeah.
both those names you just called out, like, there's a lot of negativity priced in, and it was better than feared. Like that could just be the same thing for Micron and Nike this week.
Mm-hmm. Something to watch out for. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about semis right now. AMD has been taking the heat for the most part. I think it got a nice bounce back at the end of the week, last week, Thursday or Friday or so, but still taking the heat there. And then along with Nvidia, right, that brings concerns to Nvidia, like we've been talking about. So something to watch here. StockTwits has this support, trend line drawn, and Nvidia's been holding that, similar to kind of like how Nvidia rides those higher time frame EMAs, similar to that, right? It's like a lot of the time this whole year, stocks such as Nvidia, SPY, QQQ, pretty much everything has been riding its daily, weekly 21 EMA, give or take, right? If we did lose the daily 21, we probably tested that weekly one and held that, right? And so seeing that sentiment, same thing as having that support trend line drawn, basically, to me. So, if we're starting to see a break of that structure, we could maybe expect a little bit of shift in the market here soon, right? Especially with semis leading everything. And now, like we talked about, markets can move without semis, of course, but given that that's what's pushed everything all year and that's been the sentiment, that's been the hype, if they are pulling back significantly, I'm going to expect the market to kind of follow, right? You have to. And if I don't see that, there's some divergence there that we need to find, right? There's some companies being rotated into within the S&P, within QQQ, that we need to find and play the strength there. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts just about Nvidia right now. Not really trading it much. I still got my shares long term that I'm personally holding, but definitely starting to think about hedges coming into the new year for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Nvidia's one of those names where they're growing an insane amount still, and they're printing so much cash, like so much cash that they're inevitably going to
You
turn
saw
into like a
the cash flow chart from last
yeah,
week.
it was insane. Like they're gonna be like the Apple where they have so much cash that their stock's gonna have like a really high floor to it, that it's gonna be less cyclical because of that. And they also have a software ecosystem, CUDA, around their hardware dominance. Like there's going to be less cyclicality going forward. However, opportunity cost is what you have to ask yourself. And you just heard last week the Microsoft CEO mention that they aren't supply constrained anymore for NVIDIA chips. That is a worry because these big tech companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, etc., like they've been overspending on getting as much compute as possible to create these in-house LLMs or do whatever AI initiatives they want to do, that they don't care about the costs of it. They just want to get as much as possible, get as many tools as possible, then decide what to do going forward once we have all the necessary um, compute. Now you just heard Microsoft CEO say they're not supply constrained anymore. I'm like, oof, if that is the beginning of a potential trend this upcoming earnings cycle, when Blackwell's just launching, which I think Blackwell is going to be sold out for 2026, but the market's very forward looking. And if big tech isn't going to be overspending, or they're going to put a break on buying the compute necessary from Nvidia, like that is 40 something percent of Nvidia's revenue is from these big tech companies, these four companies. So that is where the risk lies. And you're not, I'm also not even mentioning the tariff sprinkle that could be in play from Trump led presidency. And like there's just a lot more noise than there was the past couple years. And when you see a stock right here go from $10 to 160 in a matter of 2 years, you have to ask yourself, okay, when is not a top, but like when do I take the chips off the table and allocate them elsewhere because I made my buck? Like this is a $4 to $5 trillion company, like, or $4 trillion company. Like, sure, I do think this could be the first $10 trillion company. I don't know when that's going to occur. And I just know that next year is going, like, in this risk on environment as we wrap up the year, it's going to be less about large tech. It's going to be more about the next phase, and that's small mid cap growth. So I'm not surprised that you see, I don't know, you see them violating this 2 year support line. I think it wants to probably base around the 120, it's probably gonna be basing, to be honest, like 120 to 150 for like maybe a year or two. Like it could be that unless we get some kind of wild upward surprise on Blackwell, or maybe the Rubin chip is starting to come in play. But like even then, like that, there's a certain point where you can't rush innovation, and if Rubin is going to start becoming in play at end of next year, like that's rushing in my opinion. So I think it's just more of like a cool off period where they don't look super cheap and it doesn't look really expensive. It's just there, and there's just worries about like when is that margin going to start deteriorating due to big tech putting a pause on their spend. Oh, Jordan, you're on mute, or I can't hear you.
My bad. I forgot to
Oh,
unmute. My bad. I was just saying, obviously, love the charts on Tesla so far. The smooth sailing continues to the upside. Looking at us this morning, we're just hovering above Friday's high and holding. At some point, looking at the chart, obviously, when I look at a massive break at all-time highs with the momentum like this, like it's very bullish, right? I'm not thinking like I'm not getting bearish here just when we hit new all time highs, especially with the momentum. But at the same time, I gotta expect that sometime some sort of pullback to the previous all time highs to retest, right? We haven't really seen that yet, so something I'm watching out for on Tesla. Obviously, there's been a lot of momentum, but it's not just gonna keep going straight up forever, right? We're gonna have those pullbacks that we need to watch out for, and those can be opportunities to capitalize on, especially for the swing trades, right? I'm in long term investments, but I want to keep an eye out on retest for potential swing trades, right? That I'm looking for. So we'll keep eyes on that. Obviously, I'm not doing too much into the end of the year, but just kind of having a game plan for going into the new year when I do have the gas pedal, a little more on. But yeah, any big thoughts for Tesla, Shy?
um, I think something big
Send
is
her to the
gonna,
moon.
yeah, something big is gonna come the first 100 days of Trump's presidency, and I do
Mm-hmm.
think you're seeing it with like Dan posting his commentary on it. You're seeing other analysts as well in the streets starting to imply FSD and AI like assumptions into their models, and that's why you're seeing this like price target revisions upward because one of the analysts said if FSD reaches its full potential, it would add $300 to the Tesla stock. That's essentially $1 trillion bump in valuation just on FSD alone. So that just shows the runway on this stock. If FSD is a reality, and I do think it's going to be in the next like year or two due to nudges from the government and help from Trump. But also, you have to factor in like Optimus is not valued at all in the stock, and that is even a bigger opportunity, in my opinion, than AI FSD for
Yeah, that's
Tesla
at
stock.
not at all even valued in yet whatsoever. You know what I mean? That hasn't become a real factor yet at all for like investors, like you're
100%.
saying. You know what I mean? Kind of, it's just like the kind of this new fun thing that Tesla's coming out with. But what could that mean, right? There's a lot of potential there for sure. So you're right. That's a whole nother leg that they have, and that's what I love about Tesla, that they're so kind of diversified in that area where they have so many legs, right? Again, it's not just cars that they're selling. Like they have all the tech. They are the forefront of it all, right? And then now they're
Mm-hmm.
coming out with Optimus. They got the cyber cabs, the cyber van, right? All this new stuff that is just crazy to the world that we haven't really seen before, right? And they're just innovating, coming out with it. So I
I
just
mean,
love to see that. It's awesome.
I just said like AI and FSD is $1 trillion opportunity add on to Tesla. If I'm
Yeah.
even more bullish on Optimus being even more valuable to Tesla stock, that tells you everything you need to know. Where
Yeah.
Optimus and FSD and AI alone could be worth $2 trillion, and you're also not even like now you're just like, oh, it's nice to have. There's still the EV dominant player in the world, and the EV industry is about to turn a corner due to rates finally going lower, and consumers are going to spend more. Yes, the rebates are going to affect a lot of like the EV car companies, but again, the demise of the competitors is going to be a gain for Tesla in that space. Like Tesla's going to maybe get a ding, but that could be a nail in a coffin for a lot of its competition, and there's going to be a consolidation. Tesla will benefit off that. And you're also even factoring the energy storage business, which is growing at a bonkers rates, and their margins in the energy storage business are hitting a point where it was unfathomable like a year or two ago. So like there's just so many different tailwinds for this company that when it took off, it just really took off because people were started reshaping their goggles on what Tesla was as a company. And when that re-rating occurs, it's explosive. Re-ratings are the best way to capture alpha in the market. You saw with Palantir. Palantir got re-rated from a black box consulting company to the enterprise AI application winner, and that re-rating causes it to 8x. Tesla is going through the similar type of re-rating now as an EV company towards an AI real world AI application winner. And that re-rating could be just as explosive as Palantir's, where valuation doesn't make sense, but you know it's going to be substantial down the line, wherever it's going to occur fundamentally, and it's just going to take off until that gets factored in more. So I think $1,000 for Tesla isn't so like offbeat in the next year or two, due to all these massive tailwinds coming in, and there's more tailwinds than headwinds. Like, what's the headwind? Headwind is China exposure. They have some China exposure, and that tax rebate's gonna ding them, but it's gonna benefit them in the long run. So like, I don't really see any bear case for Tesla except for valuation, but that's a tricky thing for Tesla because Tesla's EV business is cyclical, and a lot of the FSD and AI revenue isn't coming in right now, but it will be. And now that's why fundamentals could be misleading right now. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Love it. Good stuff. Pfizer leads rebound in beaten down pharma. Sorry. I mean, I haven't traded Pfizer in a long time. I think the last time I did though, I was shorting it. Loved shorting Pfizer a while ago for sure. Haven't played it too much in the recent days, but I know it's been getting some pops back to the upside. It looks like on this chart we've just kind of been consolidating here at the bottom of this trend, right? So uh, got to see more for me, especially if I'm looking to trade to the upside. Got to see a lot more. Got to see a real shift in the market structure. Got to see some momentum from the bulls. To me, this is just consolidation period before another leg down potentially. When you look at these higher time frames like this, but I might be wrong, right? This market structure could be shifting. We could be making a nice base here and potentially trying to go back to the upside in the future here. So all depends on catalyst, right? That comes out, what's happening with Pfizer, of course, and the charts will reflect that. But for me, not too much. I don't touch Pfizer too much, to be honest. But any thoughts from you, Shay?
I mean, they're trading at 9 times earnings. Their revenue right now is supposed to be, they're making $63 billion this year. They will be making 61 billion in 2028. That just shows there's flat revenue, slightly towards negative for the next 3 years. And Pfizer needs to make a move with that $10 billion in cash. They're going to be M&A is going to be a massive, massive theme for the next 1 or 2 years. So Pfizer's going to have to utilize that working capital, that 10 bill, towards what their next growth is going to be for the next phase. Because right now, the analysts on the street are pricing them. There's going to be no growth for the next 4 years. Why invest? There should be no catalyst for the stock until you make that decision on why you should get people excited for your next phase of your growth. So I think Pfizer is one of those names where it's on pause until it's a game of chicken, where like you make the decision and see how we react to it, but we're not going to get in until you make that first leap. And it could be if like Pfizer makes sense on a lot. Like they can invest in genomics. There's a lot of companies right now trading on near cash value in that space if they're bullish on genomics long term. Obesity drugs. There's a lot of great companies out there in the obesity drugs, or NASH specifically, where that could be the next phase. Like there's definitely avenues out there, but they have to be they have to be aggressive because they only have 10 billion in cash. These companies are trading close to their cash value at like $1 or $3 billion. But if they wait too long, I do think biotech, small cap biotech, will be one of those hot pockets next year. These companies can double, and all of a sudden they can't afford these like beaten down biotech companies anymore because they caught that major bid. So like they have to be aggressive and it has to be quick. And I do think they're like one of those candidates in Q1 of they're gonna make some kind of announcement that's gonna be a positive catalyst potentially.
Yeah, really good stuff there. Shy, I know you wanted to share some of your tweets with everybody. So let's hop into that
Yeah. So
right before the
every
market open here. We got about 6 minutes. So yeah, let's hop into that real quick.
yeah, so every year, towards the end of the year, I usually like try to think about, all right, as you guys are aware, like I come from corporate strategy. Like I spent a decade at Fortune 500 companies, entertainment, healthcare, um, tech industries, where like essentially fire drills, and I advise C-suite on what they want to do to grow more next year, what new initiatives, etc. Like that's like my bread and butter. So like I always like to put that hat on. Right now in the tech world, like what would I do? if I was like these lagging companies, or if I was one of these big tech companies where my working capital is going to have to start being used due to interest rates going lower, so that free 5.5% is behind us. And there's a lot of lagging software companies that are undervalued. And in this post AI world, I do think there's a lot of replication that's going to happen across the board. And if you acquire a company and infuse into your own ecosystem, that could be a very low hanging fruit AI tailwind for your own business. So, example right here, Microsoft and Okta. I do think Okta is one of those identity. First off, Okta is an identity and access management solution for cybersecurity. That's one of those lagging names that, in my opinion, is way undervalued, but there's no growth there really. They qualify for the Rule 40 score of like 42. It's like they have the profitability margins that entice a lot of these big tech companies, but they're just not growing enough. There's a disconnect on their go-to-market strategy, and Microsoft's Achilles heel on cybersecurity is their identity like management. They don't really do a great job at that. So this would be an easy acquisition. It will synergize within their ecosystem. I also do think Zoom is one of those companies that's dead. It's a dead company. Like it's a commodity of a business. Like what are you going to do about that going forward? You're not growing enough. You're too expensive really to I mean, you just like there's no future growth happening. It's very similar to Pfizer. Like, what's next? Because right now, what we're seeing on the plate, we're not happy with. We're not satisfied. So, if you guys are familiar, like Cisco has WebEx, and WebEx isn't the best virtual tools. So, like, I do think utilizing Zoom's interface and UI that could be an interesting combination into their Cisco's enterprise grade WebEx solution. That's easy. I think the CRM space is going to be highly disrupted from AI. Highly disrupted. Any customer engagement tool is honestly tomato across the board. There really isn't that much of a different. You can't differ a lot of these like Braze, Klaviyo's type of companies with one another. It's just through partnerships, and that's why I think there's gonna be massive consolidation in that space. And Salesforce, their strategy has always been like rather than growing internally or new growth avenue, it's going to acquire. Like they're land and expand type of mentality, and I think they're going to be acquiring a decent amount of like they're going to be acquiring some CRM company that's like a highly niche, growing like that's undervalued that is impressive their technology, and Braze is one of those, and I do think CRM and Braze makes sense. Uber is one of those lagging companies right now because of the disruption that Tesla's going to cause potentially, and I've been very vocal about this in this post AI world. You need to own proprietary technology or own IP for you to really thrive. And Uber doesn't have any of them. They have a great network, great partner, but at the end of the day, like partnership that should not be the growth app. Like should not be the moat for a company in 5 or 7 years in this post AI world. It's like I think Mobileye is one of those companies where like their tech, their ADAS tech could be viewed as like a obsolete due to if Tesla can prove like what they FSD right now, autonomy could be scalable and succeeds, Mobileye's ADAS tech could be like viewed as a dinosaur. It's archaic, but maybe it's cheap right now because that narrative's being priced into their stock already. So Uber could scoop that up, and if Tesla doesn't prove that, and there is some kind of a window for Mobileye to enter it, that's their Trojan horse way of maybe Uber participating in the race. I do think McDonald's is going through a massive shift in strategy because they're struggling big time. And I think any Dutch Bros I go to, is packed. Line out the door. They own the Gen Z audience and they own the young millennial audience. And they also own the alpha audience as well. So they are they own the next demo of youth. McDonald's doesn't. McDonald's does not own that part of the demographic, and I think this is their way of getting involved in that, and it makes too much sense. Oracle, I think Paycom again. Paycom's a great product, but it's highly competitive, and fintech space is really competitive. Oracle has a hole in their HR portfolio, in my opinion, and I think this would be a really easy synergy for them. Snowflake is, I think, Snowflake and Confluent's interesting because Confluent is an incredible Kafka product. Like it's their streaming data product, Kafka, is incredible. However, it's open source, and the jury's still out there on if that tech needs to be a managed source, and that's where you're seeing Confluent kind of struggle, and it's at their own demise. Like their founders create this open source product, but like they're having difficulty convincing clients that it needs to be managed source. So they're going through a strategy of acquiring BI tools to make their costs cheaper to incentivize adoption.
Wake up, Shy. The
Like,
market's open.
yeah, let's. I think besides, so I think Snowflake's going to acquire BI tools to incentivize their data platform approach to enterprises. Roku's going to get acquired 100%, in my opinion. Their CEO stayed on way too long, and now they're a dead company like Zoom, essentially. I think Google's going to acquire them via YouTube and Google TV. And Zoom Info is essentially a dead company. There's no growth avenue going forward. However, they do own a lot of data regarding like the workforce and employees and like recruiting essentially. Microsoft can utilize that data for their LinkedIn. So that's my those are all my predictions. 10 names. Like I think this this was a really fun exercise that maybe I'll do five more before the end of the year. But
You should. 100%.
right now the market is open.
Getting a
Let's see how
nice little pop.
Palantir's read 1%. So that was the sell the news event
ES
for
is
them.
not liking that December NFP low. I imagine SPY is doing something similar. So again, QQQ strong over those areas, whereas SPY lately has been a little weaker there under those levels. But we'll see if it can reclaim them this morning. QQQ getting a nice pop here. How's Nvidia dropping? Kind of hard there. Dropping kind of hard. We'll see. VIX is up a bit, 14.15. Got a little bit of a gap up, nothing too crazy, but
Ooh, Amazon's running though. It's up 2% now. Let's see. What else?
how's Coinbase? Coinbase getting up. I'm keeping an eye on Coinbase pretty closely this week, just because, I mean, if you've traded Coinbase in the past, you know this consolidation that we're in right now is kind of brutal. And generally, you don't see Coinbase consolidating this much on a daily. So I'm expecting some sort of big move at some point. Obviously, it's hard to tell exactly when that's going to happen, but I would just be ready, have alerts set, and keep an eye on that. What do you think about Coinbase here, Shy? This range is brutal, man. It's just like so back and forth, tight price action. We're getting like these volatile moves here and there within the range, but no real break structure at all.
I don't know. Coinbase is a really tricky, difficult business for me to value.
Yeah.
It's not just because it's a brokerage business. It's because there's, I mean, that doesn't help. Like that's why I have a difficult time valuing Robinhood.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also cyclicality nature of their crypto revenue, where it's just there's cycles to it, and if it looks undervalued right now, that could look the complete opposite in a year, or 6 months, because the cyclicality nature of it's unpredictable. So I think Coinbase really needs the altcoin side of the crypto business to really take off like substantially. I think altcoins are not like with Bitcoin hitting an all-time high. I don't think the altcoins are doing that great. I think I don't know. I think the crypto alt market really needs to take off for me to like really get bullish on Coinbase's revenue to avoid that cyclicality risk.
Mm-hmm.
Until I see that, that's usually the euphoria stage of every like crypto cycle, and that's when things get really wonky. But right now, like I don't know, Coinbase is $1 billion in cash, um, with FST and FTX and like I forgot the other one. It's called like I think Binance out the picture. There's a duopoly in the space. It's essentially Robinhood and Coinbase. So I do think that deserves somewhat of a premium valuation to it because duopolies and monopolies they deserve a premium valuation.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one like I have a difficult time like DCFing valuing, but it's a great thematic vehicle to capture a crypto move. And as soon as I see altcoins getting really dumb on like valuations, like going up 5x in a day consistently, I'm not that bullish on it. Just buy Bitcoin, in my opinion. Long-winded answer, just buy Bitcoin, and then you'll be good.
Love it.
That's
We do have some data coming out at 9:45 Eastern. So coming up soon here, S&P Global Services PMI. I would just watch out for that. We should get a little bit of volatility off of that move. So keep an eye on that. We do see some divergence with MNQ and MES, SPY, QQQ, whatever you're watching there. SPY again just trading weaker than tech overall, and you can
Jeez,
definitely
AMD just
tell.
hit a 123 handle.
Ooh, ooh.
Their bottom their bottom in August was at 122. So that is one level I am watching to see um if this should be a theoretical bottom right here, close to it. It's just I don't know. It's one of those things. It's cheap. It's undervalued. I to be honest, I think there's a couple tailwinds for them entering 2025 where I think it can go up to 150 pretty quickly. It's just this chart is
Good, because I
breaking
need
down.
that. I need an exit on this.
That's I think a lot of people's mentalities is that though. That's the
Yeah,
tricky thing. It's
I
like any
know.
gap ups are being sold and
I
faded.
know. AMD's tricky right now. Yeah, I'm having a tough time still with kind of evaluating what I want to do with it in my portfolio personally. But we'll see going into the new year. Definitely, I'm holding on to it going into the new year, so we'll see there. But would love to get some sort of just nice little rally to where I could get a spot to get out. Obviously, it's probably best to be safe rather than sorry, and target some spots that I'd accept that are maybe a little bit lower than I'd obviously want. Obviously, if I could go right back to the highs, I'd say go right back to the highs, but it's just not realistic, especially coming into the new year. So gotta throw out some realistic targets. We'll keep an eye on that and see what we can do. Try and get an exit on that because I mean I personally don't really want to be holding AMD any anymore for the most part. I mean I've done great on it in terms of flipping the share price, right? And we've done all right. And I knew at some point it's like I'm gonna have to make this long term decision, and that time's coming. So we'll keep eyes very closely. Market right now, just kind of going back and forth. I think we're waiting for this data coming up in about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, Nvidia is just really driving this sell off 2% now.
Mm-hmm. I think we might see that sentiment continue with the market. And we're hesitating here, but again, if we're just continued momentum over previous day highs and don't stop, which is where we're fighting right now, we're fighting that area. If we just keep holding that, gotta continue to play the long. But I would like to see some short opportunities come into the market.
Snowflake's up 2% though. That's nice to see.
Hey, let's go.
Palantir is now green. That's it's more than 1%. So, crowd's up 1%. So it looks like software is kind of catching a bid right now. Let's see.
How's Apple? Apple's getting a nice rip again. Oh Lord. Over Friday's high, Microsoft got a decent pop it open, but reversing it back down. Tesla, just that continued strength looks beautiful. Holding Friday's high. Nice pop to 445 here. Oh boy. It's looking very nice. Oil's quiet as usual.
Wait, hold on.
Small
You
caps
know what's
getting moved down.
crazy?
What's up?
I wanna confirm this right now.
Yeah, what's up?
Let me just confirm before saying.
Uh-oh. What
Okay, so
happened?
A- AMD is a $200 billion market cap.
Mm-hmm.
Nvidia is about to produce $200 billion in free cash for the next 2 years. That just shows how much cash Nvidia is printing. Where
Yeah.
if they want to acquire AMD, I don't think that'll ever go through because the monopoly
Yeah.
stake of that. But if they spent 250, 260 bill on acquiring AMD, that's only gonna be like the next 2.5 years of their free cash flow. And right now they have how much? What's their cash balance right now? Oh, it's not as much as they thought. They have 39 bill in cash. So that won't ever happen. That's way too much. Like
That won't ever happen.
that won't ever happen. But I'm just saying, like they're by 2020, yeah, just next 2 years. That's crazy. They're producing what AMD's worth is and just free cash flow. Nuts.
Yeah, that's crazy, and that just goes to show it's like okay, you know, which that really helps decide for me, right? Like which one am I gonna choose to keep in my long term portfolio? Which one am I gonna run with? And like I am sitting back wishing I took some more profits on AMD. I was able um to do pretty well in that position, but obviously long term investing, it's a different mindset than I have from trading, right? I'm not looking to sell a lot of the time and personally in my long term. I know Shy, you're very good at growing these portfolios, and again, like I love your mindset on it. You're like, I'll get back in. We get those pullbacks, it'll happen. I'll get my other spots, right, which I love. Um, it's funny though, like even me being the day trader, the swing trader, when it comes to the long term, it's just a completely different mindset for me. And it's just like for the most part, I don't want to sell anything, right? If I don't have to, I don't want to. That's where it's opposite of trading for me. Um, and just getting better at that over this next year is gonna be something I wanna kind of attack and just get better at overall because again like these you get put in these positions like this where it's like we've had a beautiful market ripping all year, but how do we protect these gains, right? Because we know how quick
Mm-hmm.
they can go away. And don't get me wrong, time in the market is huge, right? A lot of the time, I mean, you look at the S&P 500, a yearly chart, it looks like stocks basically just go up when you look at a yearly chart like that, right? I may have just lagged out, but I'll get it fixed either way. There we go. I think. Are we good? No,
Yeah, you're
we're
good.
not good. There we go. We might be all right. I don't know. I'm lagging out a little bit, but either way, yeah, gonna be making some big decisions in the long term here soon to protect some capital, at least putting some hedges on, and finding ways to not give away all my money that we made all year. So we'll see what happens there. Anything you're watching super closely into the open here? Are you laying back a little bit? I'm just kind of laying low right now. I haven't taken any trades.
I mean, I'm watching Tesla about to hit 450 probably today. Besides that, I don't know. Like, there is like Palantir's down 1% now. Axon, which is another name that got in the QQQ inclusion on Friday, they're down 4%. So like it was clearly that Bloomberg Intelligence, like they leaked their news of like these names hitting it. I think that you're just seeing these names run up into the announcement. Now they're selling off. But besides that, I mean, it looks like a large cap day again. It's just like a continuance of last week where I think it's winners are going to keep winning for the next 2 weeks. I'm also
Yep.
seeing some of my small cap favorite names right now. Two of them are up 20% today. It's that
Let's
Air Test
go.
Systems on that news that dropped. They landed a $10 million deal in AI testing processors. So that was a big driver. And then ONDS is one of my new microcaps. But Air Test Systems up 16%. But ONDS is one of my newer microcap names that I started 2 weeks ago. This is on the drone theme. I think drones are gonna be more of a hot topic in 2025, and this is one of those names that's gonna capture that thematic, and it was trading at very close to their cash value. So it's just one of those things where it's down like 95%, I think, from those like all-time highs. But I do think this drone thing is something to monitor. And it's going to be like something bigger theme of conversation next year. And their Iron Dome that ONDS has to offer is that's gonna be a massive tailwind for it. So they're catching a continued bid, and a lot of people don't have this name on their radar. That's what like 2 weeks ago I was like, oh whoa, this is awesome because not a lot of people are talking about it. Like I look on Twitter or like my research, like oh, there's minimal content on it. I think that's gonna change once you see this like name like run up significantly, and like right now you're seeing it. So that's it's very hyper specific on what parts of the market are kind of working right now, and you're just seeing and like Palantir is down 2%, Nvidia is down 2%. You're seeing semiconductors like pulling back significantly today. Um, ARM Holdings down 6%. You're seeing AMD down 3%. It's just, am I reading this right? Broadcom's up 7% again today.
Oh wait, really? Oh,
What news just dropped on for them?
oh, ripping, dude. Oh my gosh. Oh Lord.
What the
Happy
hell?
Monday. Good morning.
That's nuts.
Wow. Whoa. Okay. That data's coming out right now, so expect some volatility. You can probably see it on the charts already right now. On SPY, QQQ, all that. SPY's looking definitely again a lot weaker than QQQ at these areas.
Was that a bueno data or bad data that just came out?
Let me check. Let's see.
Because I'm seeing Q show strength, but SPY is pulling back. There is a divergence happening right now.
What was the PMI number? It's not giving. Needs to update. It's not quite giving me a.
Does it usually
There it
come
is.
out at 9:45? Usually, I thought it was always 10.
It depends. It depends on the data point. Sometimes we have it like this, but you're right. A lot of the time we do have data at 10, especially like new home sales data, stuff like that is usually at 10. So yeah, for or estimate for SP Global Services PMI 55.7. The actual is 58.5. If the PMI is above 50, it indicates expansion in the services sector, which is generally bullish for currency. Below 50 indicates contraction, which is bearish. We saw below 50 on the global manufacturing PMI. On the services PMI, we saw above 50.
So that's a no bueno.
Yeah, not quite great.
But the market's reacting.
But
Nothing.
yeah, market's
Again, this
kind
is
of just
another
back and
example.
forth
Like
here.
macro data is not going to move the market at all until next year.
Yeah, I think
And
that's a good point.
let's see what
That's why
else.
too when data comes out right now, I'm really not sitting back going, oh, like this data came out at this number. This is bullish, this is bearish. Even though like we have a little bit of a game plan for that, just doesn't really apply for me. I'm just like, hey, it's volatility. That's what I should know. There's going to be volatility in these areas, right? Up or down doesn't matter. Bearish, bullish news doesn't really matter to me. It's just like, okay, volatility. Expect that. Play off that. Um, but yeah, good stuff this morning. I think we'll wrap up unless you got some other big thoughts that you wanna share, Shy.
Bro, I'm just looking at Broadcom. It's up 35%
It's
in a week.
ripping,
That's
dude.
insane.
It's going crazy. All right, well, good
But yeah,
stuff.
that's it.
Appreciate the
That's really it.
crew as always. Tuning in. We'll be back bright and early in the morning for another episode of the Daily Rib. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys are liking the stream and tuning in every morning. We will be back bright and early, and I hope you guys all trade safe and have a great trading day. Shy, appreciate you, brother. Have a great day. We'll see everybody in the morning. Yes, sir.